Hi, good evening. I have a tough act to follow after Major General Akali's well-structured speech. I, as you can see, come unprepared, but anyways, I'll try to wing it. Forgive me for any mistakes I make. There was something that a panelist said early in the morning about how equipment or facilities given to an institution get locked away under lock and key by the principals and college, administrators. And I agree with that. I spent my college years in a small town, Karnataka Engineering College. And around that time, IBM, being the benevolent giant that it is, decided to donate a server, AS400, an IBM server, to the college for the use of the students. Now, this machine must have cost about 20 odd lakh rupees, came in a nice black color. All IBMs came in black, and I think they still do. Anyways, so my college promptly went and constructed a nice little air-conditioned glass room for the server. And the day it was installed, a lock was put on that glass room. So you had, we did the entire coconut and the flower thing. We sort of, which is, again, it's culture, so you don't mess around with that. But eventually what did happen was that the server was behind glass walls. You could see it, you could barely hear it, but you couldn't touch it. So you had no access to it. And I don't really blame those guys. It was an expensive machine, and looking at the rowdy lot we were, we most probably would have ended up breaking it down or something. Which brings to mind the second event, major event that happened that very year. Our college got a 512 kpbs lease line. So the college very smartly and very sanely decided to keep that thing open to all students. So we had a 20-30 odd machine internet cafe that was inaugurated, and every day you could smell the internet cafe a mile away. Why I say smell? Because when you walked by, you see all these chappals and shoes lined outside, and all 20-30 machines are occupied by students. The shoes were smelling and the machines were working away to glory. So my take on education 2.0 or virtual learning in the campus or in life is, the new slogan is Roti, Kapda, Makan, education and bandwidth. Give a guy connectivity, education is a fundamental right now. Give a kid or a guy connectivity and he can figure it out on his own. So I see a lot of institutions claiming to have PAN boards or whiteboards, smart whiteboards, digital whiteboards in their classrooms, projectors, things like that. But I also know and notice that quite a few of these do not give their students, you'll give away a free laptop to your students, because that's part of the deal, that's a purchasing product design feature. But not many of these give high-speed internet connectivity. Yes, they'll have the Wi-Fi campus, but again, the speeds will be slower, things like that. So again, going back to the original point, give the students connectivity and they can conquer the world on their own. Like General Akali said that his granddaughter figured out Skype and figured out to get in touch with her grandparents. That was the best thing to do. That's because she had the computer there, she had the connectivity there, she took the broadband for a given, and children have a habit of adopting technologies like these faster than adults or, elder people do. So, a college, now education 2.0, for me the simplest or the most easy adoption of education 2.0 is the YouTube Edu channel, or maybe Academic Earth, or maybe the MIT OCW channel. So there's plenty of content out there. Now students need to just be able to access it. You don't really need to teach them how to do it. You don't need to have a multi-million-dollar LMS hosting that content there. You don't need to be creating content yourself. If you give your candidates or your students the means to get to that content themselves. Also brings to mind a small little experiment I read about that NIT did. I don't think the gentleman's still there with us, but they called it the hole in the wall. I had the good fortune of hearing their head, Mr. Pawar, speak about it. What they did I think this was their Kalkaji office, it was adjacent to a slum. So what they did was they broke a small screen size hole in their wall, and they put a computer, a normal working computer, out, the business end of it towards the slum through that hole. And they allowed the kids in the slum on the outside free access to that computer. So there was a machine that's jutting out from my wall, and the kids on the other side, the slum kids, have access to it. They can walk up to it, they can play with it and things like that. And they put a camera on it, if I remember correctly. And they started viewing or watching the interaction that the kids had with this machine. the kids picked up everything. That's what happened. They slowly picked up how to use it. They picked up how to use the keyboard, the mouse. They also set about creating a sort of a hierarchy or a control system. Who gets how much time with the computer? They figured this is a freebie given by NIT. Great, thanks a lot to them. And now they decided they got to preserve it. It's only one computer. They can't afford to break it. They can't afford to have one bully hog it all the time. So they created this entire community around that computer. Now that was a great initiative. I think that also sort of explains to you how the human psyche works. Children, candidates, students, whoever, you give them the facilities, you give them the technology to use it, they can use it on their own. You don't really need to have to figure out a strategy on how to use Twitter or Facebook or maybe even Second Life. I hear a lot about Second Life. Second Life is that website where you can buy virtual islands on, you can have a virtual persona on Second Life, you can have virtual identity. Fine. There's entire reams and reams of paper being wasted on how Second Life can be used on education. In fact, there are some universities in the US that are actually on Second Life trying to figure a way out to engage their students, engage their community, and impart some education along the way. But when you take a look at India and you take a look at the rest of the world, there is a huge gap. Right now, we can talk basics, we can concentrate on the basics. And I think then what comes out of it is an entire generation or 2 generations or 3 generations of computer savvy, internet savvy people. The moment they know how to access the internet. See, it's very easy to, it's very commonplace to find somebody who knows how to book internet, a railway ticket online. That wasn't the case about 10 years ago. Every other household now would have somebody who knows how to do that, how to book air tickets. Virtually everybody is booking their air tickets online nowadays. So, if the facilities are there, if they are open and accessible to all, then the results will follow. We don't really need to try and outpace the growth here. And for this, I think we don't have too much to worry about also on this regard. I do hear of some government initiatives where the government is installing broadband or fiber optic bandwidth down to the villages, to every village or to every panchayat or every digital nodal center where they service other things like e-governance concepts, for instance, birth certificates, death certificates, land registry, things like that. So all those centers would also have tons and tons of bandwidth being piped courtesy of the government. And hopefully that would be opened up to the regular citizens of that village, and then they'll learn what they learn from it. So my opinion broadly is that I think the kids, if I may, I'm fairly young myself, but the kids will figure a way out despite or in spite of our efforts. So I guess that's it. Thank you. And